Hey guys, I know things have been rough lately, but today I want to talk to you about what's going on with Section 8 and other housing programs as a result of the government shutdown. We know that it's still ongoing. A lot of sources say they don't know how long it's going to take to resolve. So I want you to be prepared and know what you can expect going forward. So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about how that shutdown affects Section 8, public housing, and other HUD programs that affect where you live. We're going to talk about what's going to continue running, what might be at risk, and what you need to do through this period of uncertainty. And I cannot stress that last part enough. As these things are going on and they're changing, it is really important that you follow the advice that we're going to outline a little later in this video, just to make sure that you are doing what you need to do to keep those benefits safe. So, first, let's just talk about what we know so far. So, HUD released their contingency plan on September 30th. They've made a couple of modifications since then. Ultimately, most HUD functions did immediately stop work. Some funds are covered for a short period of time, and that does seem to vary based on the program. Some reports are saying that 71% of HUD staff has been furloughed and others are working without pay. We know that a lot of the online systems are still operational. Your local public housing authority should still be open, and your state and local housing agencies should be available to answer your questions as well. So let's start with a quick program overview before we dive into what you need to do. So HUD has confirmed that public housing has funding through November. If you live in public housing, you should not experience any disruption at this time. We will revisit this next month again if the shutdown is still an issue. Hopefully it won't be. If you live in project-based Section 8, most properties should be fine because most of them should have an active contract until the end of the year or longer. Some of them do expire in coming months, but HUD has indicated that they will be able to process those contracts, so no interruptions are expected there. Possible, but not expected. Project 515 and sections 514 and 516 are mostly for farm worker housing. They have said that most tenants should not face disruptions. However, some contracts will expire and those contracts cannot be renewed during the shutdown. So if you're living in that kind of housing, there is a chance that you may encounter a problem. RD rural housing vouchers may be impacted if your lease ends during the shutdown unless your property has use restrictions. If the property has use restrictions, you have additional protections there. You may not have as much to worry about, but it's important to know whether or not that is the case for you, as well as when your lease ends. Now, if you are on Section 8, I know this is the big question. HUD has informed the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment officials that funding will be available through December. Initially, they said October and mid-November, and then on October 8th, they came out and said they were going to fund the remainder of November and December by the end of October so that those agencies can draw down those funds at the start of each month like they usually do. Now, emergency vouchers may also still be available to families who are at risk of termination or those who need to move due to an emergency situation like housing or safety violations. So, right now, that's what's going on with the HUD programs. Most people should not be facing an issue, at least not through the month of November. And like I said, we'll revisit this again if the shutdown continues, but hopefully that won't be an issue. But now let's talk about what you need to do in the meantime, because it's really, really important that you follow this guidance. So the National Housing Law Project released this really handy guide about what's going on and how it should be handled. And they said tenants should not receive a rent increase, voucher termination, or eviction notice because of the shutdown. However, it is extremely important that you pay your share of the rent on time. You need to make sure that you're fully compliant with these programs. You're not giving your landlords any excuses to create any issues for you. In an article in Fox 13 Memphis, Jamie Johnson, who is an attorney and executive director for the Memphis Public Interest Law Center, said, "Make sure you're paying your portion of the rent in full and on time." Okay. Now, I know they're in Memphis, but this is solid advice throughout the country. They also said that your landlord cannot charge you more than your share of rent during the government shutdown. So, as long as you're paying your share of the rent in full and on time and you're living up to your obligation there, you should not be at risk of extra charges or evictions or anything like that. I saw that guidance both in Fox 13 Memphis and in the guide that was issued by the National Housing Law Project as well. So, please, if you have any trouble making your share of the rent, try to find arrangements for that help now. Go to your local charities, go check out our article and our videos on how to get rent help. Get that squared away as quickly as you can so that you're not giving your landlords any reason to give you any grief. Now, we know that some landlords just don't always follow the rules, right? I know several years ago, my family rented from this really aggressive landlord who didn't want to rent to us. He told us that renting to a family with children was worse than renting to a family with pets, but legally he couldn't tell us no. And that there should have been my first red flag that he was going to be a nightmare to work with, but we signed the lease anyway. And he would come by every week and literally measure our grass with a ruler to see if we were compliant. Some landlords are just mean. So, if your landlord attempts to increase your rent or evict you during the government shutdown, you need to contact an attorney as soon as possible. You can find free legal help through lsc.gov, lawhelp.org. You can also check out our other videos and resources for other legal aid assistance. The National Housing Law Project also suggests that you need to bring your lease if you have it and any previous notices from your landlord or your management company when you get that legal help. Now, depending on where you live, this may or may not be helpful, but Jamie Johnson suggested using the subject line government shutdown if you're sending an email to legal aid. Now, again, this person works with legal aid in Memphis, but it may be helpful to get the attention of the legal aid office in your area as well. So I wanted to share that with you. So here's the thing. If the government shutdown does continue long enough that HUD funds do run out, the CEO of Memphis Housing Authority said that they urge tenants to continue to pay their portion of the rent as agreed upon in their rental agreement. Nobody quite knows, I think, what's going to happen if we get to that point because we never really have before. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. I know this isn't great news, and I have been agonizing all day about what to say to you guys because I hate bringing you bad news. And I know it feels so relentless and so stressful right now. And I am so sorry. Our team will continue researching and trying to find all of the help that we can find that's out there. We've been sending out tons of emails to different resources, trying to verify and get information so that we can connect you to the help that we need. So I hope this has been helpful to you. If you receive Medicare, please don't forget to give our sponsor chapter a call because they're helping people save on average over $1,000. And I know that's not going to solve your housing crisis or any of those other challenges, but they'll at least be able to help you figure out your Medicare and get you the best possible coverage for you. So you can see that number right there. And stay tuned because we'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with better news and more ways that you can save money and get free stuff. I'll see you.